A bill titled Improving SERA Benefit Utilization Act was introduced by Pennsylvania Representative Matt Cartwright on January 9, 2024. This bill has three main parts. The first adds an additional requirement for the Secretary of Defense to implement training of service members regarding their rights surrounding certain financial interactions that we will discuss later. The important part is the members of the different military branches. Service members will also be notified of updated requirements and services provided to them through the Service Members Civil Relief Act as soon as they enter active duty status, to include reserve members entering to active status during their time in their reserve component. The final action of the bill is to expand the obligation of creditors to comply with interest rate limitations to include when the member enters active status and to treat other debts and liabilities with the same limitation even if the member did not expressly request this debt to be included in their submission. Each financial institution will be required to have a smooth avenue for a member to submit their documentation through for proof of active duty military service. Primary impact. For those that are not familiar, the Service Members Civil Relief Act was established to help keep military members focused on the mission of national defense and United States government military initiatives. This is done by putting limitations of things like interest rates that military members can be charged in order to ensure financial troubles do not interfere with military duties. Currently, those that members are not allowed to be charged more than 6% interest on debts, including mortgages, that were incurred before the member joined the military. There are many stipulations and other services, but this is one of the most prevalent and impactful portions of that legislation. As mentioned, this is intended to remove, or reduce more accurately, certain stressors from a military member's life in order to keep them effective in accomplishing their mission. This falls in line with other trainings and services provided to military members like financial planning, marital counseling, mental health services, nutritional services, an extensive paid time off program, and many more. A member who is deployed to another country in a time of war or defense will not be effective if their house is being foreclosed or their only family vehicle being repossessed. Secondary impact. This next impact is minimal, since the debt is not eliminated or compensated by someone else. However, it should be mentioned as it is still an impact we will feel as a nation. Since financial institutions, banks, credit unions and other like businesses, will be required to reduce their interest rates, their revenue will be reduced. Interest rate is method used by lenders to compensate for risk. If a bank makes a loan to someone who is risky, they will charge more in interest to help reduce the impact if they are not paid back in full. Those that enter into active duty will have a more steady and risk-free income than others, but the risk is still present. If these members take too much from the banks may need to apply that risk tolerance somewhere else. Raising interest rates on others is a method that comes to mind. This increase in interest rate will lead to inflation as the cost of acquiring a loan, and the subsequent repayments, will now be higher. This impact, again, would be very little as approximately 1% of the United States population would be utilizing this service. As a disclaimer, I do not divulge personal information for the sole purpose of keeping these videos as unbiased as possible. What I do, who I am, and any identifiable demographics of mine should have nothing to do with the logic behind these impacts. However, in the name of fighting of any claims of dislike for the military and the members, I want it to be known that I am currently serving as an active duty enlisted member of the United States military. I will not divulge any further information about this or myself unless it is to lend to the credibility of logical arguments as necessary. I will also disclaim that I do not represent the United States government, Department of Defense, or any of the military branches with the views I place before you, as is required by the Uniform Code of Military Justice.